journos outside the Amex Stadium because we've been kicked out as usual, but it's where Newcastle drew 1-1 with Brighton Hove Albion this afternoon in the Premier League. Keeps the Champions League hunt very much on track, even though for a point it looked like it was going to be derailed because Newcastle, they left it late. A lot of penalty drama in the game, a lot of VAR drama as well. Yankuba Minte, of course, comes back to haunt Newcastle once again, and plenty to talk about regarding what he did, his celebrations and things like that. But Jordan, where would you like to start? 1-1 against Brighton today. What's your standout message for your Geordie journals watchers?
I think I've got to try and digest the chaotic second half. It felt chaotic to me. My brain was frazzled in that second half, and I didn't really start to take things in until probably after Eddie Howe spoke to the media, which is it's not an ideal time. I should really be on it then, but no, it was just constant even from probably the first half when I'm going to the first half now, so I'll start the first half actually.
That's the best place to start.
The reason why I'm going to start the first half is I'm talking about Yankuba Minte's goal, the celebration. So you try what does the celebration mean? So we're looking at that. I think you wrote an article, I wrote an article at the same time. Then the second half, you've just got out of the way, and then all of a sudden, 3 penalty appeals, a late goal. It was just absolutely manic. But the good thing is that Newcastle have came out and have got something to show for it. Because I think it would have been a massive blow if I'd have lost today. Yeah. But they've got a point, and could have been a lot more. I think they deserved to win, Newcastle. I don't think they were the best today, but I thought they were a better team than Brighton, particularly in that second half. But the point keeps the Champions League qualification in their own hands. I think that's all you can ask for. They've got a potential decider against Chelsea next week, so that point ensured that they could stay ahead of Chelsea heading into that game, and that was really, really important because look, it's a massive game, but you don't want to be the team that's sort of chasing. You know what I mean? You want it in your own hands, and getting that point today allowed them to do that.
Yeah, it's massive, and a point here is basically as good as it gets for Newcastle.
Yeah.
You have to think as well, they've never won here in the Premier League. Bit of a bogey team, Brighton, and I think it was almost like a similar story to the previous games against Brighton, where Newcastle haven't been brilliant, just maybe a bit toothless in attack. They've controlled the game for the most part, and Brighton have sucker punched them, and it looked like it was going to be the same old story again today. But the first penalty shout, which I thought was a penalty, but actually, one thing I have to say, we didn't have any monitors in the.
I know, that was
the press
worse,
box.
Actually,
I think the Amex Stadium. I've only been here a couple of times, but is a contender for my least favourite in the Premier League in terms of the media access and things like that, because we were put up in the gods.
In the gods, aye.
And did not have any monitor, so it was like being back in.
Non-league.
In non-league, wasn't it?
You get so accustomed to replays.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
when VAR's a thing, you need to see the replay.
Yeah, no,
so I'm like, is that a penalty? Is it not? We've got no idea, because it certainly looked like a penalty, but then when you go, it's outside the box, you can't really complain.
Yeah.
Second one, Joe Willock, he gets booked for diving. I've seen the replay since. It looked like possibly that was the correct call as well. So, and then the handball, which was a handball. It felt like it at the time. You saw the protests. Eddie Howe said he thought it was a clear penalty. So, I think VAR was very much involved, but you can't really have too many complaints. Although I will say Craig Pawson, the referee, almost got every decision wrong. And needed VAR to almost correct him every time.
He gave the penalty, didn't he?
Yeah.
But I think he gave the penalty. And then obviously it was checked with VAR. Sorry, I'm saying penalty as if there was one. The one at the end, Isaacs, I think he spotted the handball and gave it. But I say, even though I think the first two are correct calls, as you mentioned there, that outside the box, can't argue with that. But the referee, to give a penalty and then have to say they're getting to book a player for simulation, I think that's really poor refereeing. I know Brighton fans are really unimpressed by it today, and there's always, with the exception of the West Ham game that early on the season changing spot, there's always controversy when Craig Pawson's referee. First game of the season, Fabian Schär, headbutt, 3-match ban. Everton, albeit he's probably a bit more in favour of Newcastle that day with the Anthony Gordon penalty, then not giving Everton a penalty when Dominic Calvert-Lewin was I don't want to say chopped down. I didn't think it was a penalty, but there's just always something when he's involved, and I think he had a poor afternoon albeit I think Brighton fans were more irritated by him. But I think from Newcastle's perspective, well, I thought he was really, really poor. So
yeah, I thought, well, Brighton possibly should have had a penalty themselves as well.
Yeah,
Fabian Herzl, I thought Matt O'Reilly was fouled by Sandro Tonali, and I mean, as I say, we didn't see any replays of it, but it certainly looked like they possibly had a case at the time, and that would have changed things again. But yeah, wasn't a great day for officiating, and ultimately it took centre stage, because the game itself, it wasn't really. Nick Pope had one half save to make, like really comfortable save, and yeah, didn't have really anything to do. And I thought Bart Verbruggen, he had a couple of decent saves. Then he made one from Callum Wilson at the end, which was a great save, but that was the aftermath of what would be the penalty decision. So yeah, I think in terms of goal mouth action, final third action wasn't a lot to talk about, but obviously the penalty stuff takes centre stage.
And Isak in that moment as well, I think deserves real credit, because that was a proper pressure moment.
In a game where he'd had very little
I thought
in front of goal.
I thought first half he was very, very quiet. I thought second half there was more of an effort from him to try and make things happen.
Callum Wilson coming on probably helped him get more involved.
Yeah, no, that them two linked up really well. Actually, it's probably Callum Wilson's brightest,
most encouraging
cameo. But today is actually marks exactly 12 months, exactly a year since he last scored a Premier League goal, because we were at Burnley last year when he last scored. And hasn't scored since.
Jordan knows that, because May the 4th, it's your birthday.
It is.
Happy birthday, Jordan.
Thank you very much.
Wish him happy birthday in the comments if you're that way inclined. And yeah, so yeah, May the 4th be with you.
I just wish, it would have been nice with 3 points, but I think it's a solid point.
Your birthday wish was actually not to be shoved in the high press box.
Yeah, nothing's came true on my birthday today.
No.
I wanted 3 points. I wanted a better press box. That's twice I've been loaded up that. But you've got to literally leave the stadium to go to a different part of the stadium.
Yeah.
Sorry, lad, they're going a little tangent.
We do have a lovely press box, but it's right at the front, and it's very small.
Well, if you guys are on Twitter, X it's called these days, have a look at the two videos from when I first arrived at Brighton. That's the press box I would like to be in. And then there's a video when the players walk out as to where I actually am, and it's from, the height difference is significant. But I suppose you had a decent view of the match, level 7-esque viewing of it, and
just couldn't see any replays. We've got people turning to us saying, "What's happening?" I've got no idea.
Yeah, Brighton fans in front say, "Is that a penalty? Is that a penalty?" I have no idea.
We're used to it at the match. I say the match. We're used to it at St James's Park. Whenever there's a VAR decision, you have people in the stands, fans looking over your shoulder, saying, "Oh, is it a penalty?" And it's a nice bit of. You feel a bit like privileged and a bit of power going, "Oh yeah, it's a definite penalty." I'm usually wrong when I say, if they ask me, I go, "Aye, definitely a penalty," and it never is. But yeah, today just couldn't see anything. But I think all in all, a point is a good one, and it just keeps it in Newcastle's hands. I asked Eddie Howe about it after the game today, where he's like, "That's all you want. We're going into this Chelsea game, the final 3 games, 3 really tough games, but if you win them all, you're fine. If you draw against Chelsea, that probably keeps you still heading in the right direction." And I think today is a point that could be viewed as a much more valuable point come the end of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I say, it keeps them ahead of Chelsea, albeit they've won today. Don't get favours off Liverpool there. Six changes they made, which understandably so, because they've won the Premier League. It's just a shame that game didn't happen 2 weeks ago. But it is what it is, and yeah, even if Nottingham Forest win at Crystal Palace on Monday night, Newcastle would still
put 10 past them. Yeah,
unless, which you never know. But yeah, it still keeps Newcastle in a leading position where it's in their own hands. And look, I never thought that we were going to go and win all the remaining games. I thought this would be one of the ones that they would drop points. Arsenal's the other one, but I think if they win the next 2 home games, I think that should be enough, because. I don't know this for certain, but it's factoring in Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea in the final day, whereas you take points off Chelsea, Everton on the final day, I think that'll be enough. So, because Arsenal's another tough one, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's pretty much a shootout next week between the Chelsea and Newcastle. If Newcastle go and lose that against Chelsea next week, I don't think Newcastle will be in the top 5 if they go and lose to Chelsea. Of course, it can still happen because teams are still chasing them. But the way the results are planned out is no one's doing them favours. Everyone's
except
winning.
Brentford.
Yeah, Brighton Hove, yeah. I mean, Arsenal dropped points, but the talk of second place for me started by yourself, actually. If Newcastle win all
It's
the
not
remaining-
in the hands anymore.
No,
They can't
it's
finish
not.
second in their own hands
But
anymore.
I thought that was, I mean, it's not lunacy in terms of the fact it actually can't happen, but I think that he's thinking that way.
Look at the first objective first. It's
Yeah,
like
just finish fifth, that's
As
all
any
you need to
manager
do.
would go, like your first objective, stay in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Then you're looking at Europe. Then you're looking at the title type thing. And yeah, take it one step at a time. I would say, which sounds hypocritical, given I tweeted about that narrative last night.
It's nice to think that way, and it's nice to be looking that way. But just finish fifth, and yeah, they've got it's not a battle. Well, it is a battle. It's a battle heading in the final 3 weeks of the season. But I think if you had asked any Newcastle fan to start the season, you would be in this position. There's a sweeper goes past us here.
Keeping things clean at Amex Stadium. Game today, what's your big takeaways? What do you want to talk about more generally looking ahead to the Chelsea game? Obviously Fabian Schär went off, he's a potential injury concern. Kieran Trippier also went off, but Eddie Howe said cramp. And then Newcastle named an unchanged side after the 3-0 win at Ipswich. So what are you thinking?
So looking ahead at that Chelsea game, I mean, do you want to look at the few? You look at the performance. I thought there was a couple of really poor performances out there. I'll start with, because Joe Willock's the as much as one changed, that was the call. Is he going to stick with Joe Willock? I think he made it pretty obvious he was going to during his press conference on Friday. Eddie Howe, and he spoke to us, and he spoke about Joe Willock, and I think that was a strong hint. Obviously, started the day, but I just didn't think he grasped his opportunity. I thought he was really lively and energetic and got into some really good positions, but just really lacked that final ball, final bit of conviction. He was a real frustrating watch.
Summed up by his simulation for
Yeah.
the penalty, and then he got subbed off soon after that as well. And yeah, it was a really frustrating afternoon for him, I thought.
I said on Friday I want to see more of Lewis Maine, and I don't disagree with the Joe Willock call, because he's not a like for like replacement in terms of Joe Linton, but he plays on the left hand side of the midfield. He knows the role, but I just don't think in the last 2 games, I think he was really quiet. Last week against Ipswich, and today, as I say, I can't knock his effort. I thought he was there, he wanted to get involved, he made some really good runs forward, but just never had that final bit of
Quality and
units.
conviction, decision making. It's a culmination of all those things that just lead to frustrating performance, and I think that's what it was from Joe Willock today. When you're getting in good areas, like he's made a good run to the byline almost, and he tries some weird, really powerful outside of the foot cross, and it's just like, it's like what you'd try on the training ground type thing.
I described it as aimless, but I know what moment you thought. It was in the first half when he sort of side-footed it and it was raised over the crossbar. I don't know what he was trying to do there. I don't know if it was a cross.
It would have been an unbelievable goal, but
it was almost just he just swung a foot at it to see where it ended up. So on that, I mean, looking ahead next week's team, one thing I would say about next week's team, I don't know Eddie Howe does this, but I think you've got to put Anthony Gordon in.
Find a way, because
think
he
you've got to
came
find a
on
way.
and I thought he changed the game a little bit. Anthony Gordon, he wasn't at his 100%
perfect by any stretch.
fully firing best or anything like that, but it was one of them where he comes on left wing, almost grabs the game that was threatening to go away from Newcastle just by the scruff of the neck, and Newcastle get a bit of momentum. Like you say, he wasn't perfect, he was frustrating at times, had a few aimless shots that just flew over and maybe made a few wrong decisions, but just by running, showing that energy and a bit of conviction, which we didn't see from Joe Willock in a similar sort of role on the left-hand side, and didn't really see from Harvey Barnes in that position. He moved out to the right. It was just nice to see. It was a bit of a breath of fresh air, even though it was an imperfect breath of fresh air.
He was everything Newcastle weren't in the first half, because Newcastle had a lot of possession, and I think we're probably the better team in the first half. I think I would say is more about Brighton.
I think they went off the boil after conceding. They were the better team until they conceded.
But Anthony Gordon just did everything that his teammates didn't. It was just injected a bit of energy and pace and a bit of intent down the left hand side. So I think he looked like a player I want to prove a point as well. I think he's dying to get back in the team, and as I say, I don't know how Eddie Howe does it, because I don't think Jacob Murphy, as much as I thought he was very quiet today and not impactful at all. Harvey Barnes I thought was the better of the two. of them two anyway. Obviously, Harvey Barnes gets moved over to the right-hand side. So it's harsh to say that Harvey Barnes or Jacob Murphy should make way for Anthony Gordon, but I just think when you've got a player of his quality, I think you need to find a way to get him in the team somehow. And does that include a formation rejig? I don't know. But I've seen a player today that I think looks like a player that's going to have a big say on the final 3 games.
Yeah, and Eddie Howe knows that. He said in Friday's press conference he's got a massive role to play in Newcastle's remaining games, and I think it's been 2 months since he last started a game. Last start came against Brighton in their FA Cup where he was sent off. I think he's got to be chomping at the bit now. Obviously he's had his injury issues, suspension obviously as well, but yeah, I think we saw a player where he's by no means at his best because he's barely played recently, but certainly getting there. And I think, like you're right, a player of his quality, you need to be finding a way to get on the pitch. Especially when you're seeing someone like Joe Willock in a similar sort of role, but he's getting in similar areas of the pitch, just lacking any real final third quality when you know the quality Anthony Gordon provides.
Yeah, I say how you fit him in. I think it's really harsh for players to make way, because I don't think, as much as today was a poor. It wasn't a poor performance. Sorry.
It was okay.
Yeah, it was okay. But I just think, I don't think anyone deserves to be dropped. But as I say, you just got Anthony Gordon there. Just find a way to get him in. Play 12 men.
Our message to Eddie Howe: find a way. Yes. So it's going to be a interesting game. I think that's the game. Whoever wins that game will probably go in Champions League football next season.
Well. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's that big, and it's 12 o'clock kick-off next week, which is never ideal. 12 o'clock kick-off on a Sunday, which is a grim kick-off time. But I just hope that the fans come with the voices, which I'm sure they will, because it's a big game. Everyone knows what's at stake. So I expect St James Park to be rocking next week, and when Newcastle are in that moment, when St James Park are out, it's a really difficult place to go. So I would back them against Chelsea next week, but maybe Chelsea are starting to find a bit of form. It's hard to know, because say Liverpool are on the beach basically, got nothing to play for, but it's hard to know. But usually based off Enzo Maresca's time at Leicester, they had a real dip during the middle of the season, then finished the season strong to win the championship. I do wonder if Chelsea maybe in that moment, but I would still back Newcastle at home. Yeah,
Chelsea had a real strong end to the season last year and then ended up pipping Newcastle to Europe. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen again. Newcastle will be in some form of European football next season, but hopefully it's the Champions League, the financial benefits, but then also the competitive benefits as well, playing in Europe's elite competition, none of these second-rate Europa League or third-rate Conference League. So yeah, we'll obviously, well actually on that note, we'll have a word from our sponsors before we wrap up this video. Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. We've also got Mitigate. Mitigate enhances workplace mental health, helping businesses stay compliant, reduce absences and unlock higher productivity, creating healthier, happier teams. And of course, our OG sponsors, Four Rivers Financial Planning. Four Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in. So yeah, those were our three sponsors. Links in the description below. And if you like what we do, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell for all your Geordie Journos content. We'll be back on Friday.
Yes.
Eddie Howe's pre-match press conference ahead of that all-important St James's Park match against Chelsea. In the meantime, Jordan, anything else you want to say before we'll wrap up your birthday special?
Birthday special. No, so when I spoke about Joe Willett, I think it's hard. It's harsh to call out one player. I feel like that's the way you want to put it. But I thought there was a couple of bad performances across the park. I think one thing I will say is I thought Sandro Tonali probably had his worst game of the season. Yeah.
Could have done better for the goal, definitely.
Yeah, and he's mentioned there about potentially giving away a penalty. He just wasn't his usual self. But I'm not going to sit here and really criticise him because he's been class for months. So everyone has an off day. Hopefully that was his, and then he can be back to his absolute best against Chelsea next week.
if you have an off day and still picking up points, then good. I thought, on the whole, Newcastle probably, I
think
mean,
they
good
deserved
value
to
for the point, but possibly could have got all three. I think Eddie Howe summed it up well in his post-match assessment, which you can check out on the Shields Gazette or Newcastle World for myself and Jordan. And yes, like I say, like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell for all your Geordie Journals content, and we'll see you in our next video. If we don't meet up for a midweek one, we'll see you at the Newcastle United Media Centre on Friday. Thanks for watching.